resource person for today, Dr. Srinivasan, my good friend and colleague, Associate Professor of Mathematics at Bharadasan University. So I welcome you, sir, on my behalf and on behalf of all the participants. And I also welcome all the participants who are joining for the seminar. I think almost 107 have joined, and more will be joining later. So I extend a warm welcome to all the participants who have joined for this webinar, and I wish you all the best for this webinar. So now, with this brief introduction and welcome, I hand over the session to Dr. Srinivasan. Please, sir.
Yeah. So welcome to all of you. In fact, this time I should thank Prasanna, who has given a very warm welcome to me, and of course giving a very nice opportunity of sharing my thoughts with you people. In fact, for this sort of webinar meeting, we should adhere to some small rules. In fact, all of you should mute your mic unless and otherwise asked, so that there will not be any noise disturbances. And in fact, as all of you know, it's not a live talk, so that there is no eye contact, but still I could see people from web. Few of you I could see, so it is not as usual, but we will try to capture the magic of the classroom. We'll try to bring it here. And I ask all of you should mute your mic, please. I could hear some of the voices here. In fact, today's talk invitation to real analysis. So this is my first writing, so invitation to R, I'll call it as invitation to real numbers. I hope there are a lot of audience from various level, even among mathematics. There could be people from undergraduate, people from postgraduate, and research scholars. Of course, faculty also, those who have completed research has also joined. This is a nice occasion. In fact, the purpose of the talk is to enlighten you with or attract. In fact, most of the talk is going to be towards attracting undergraduate people towards analysis, real analysis. So not only real, in fact, most of you know that real analysis. In fact, I could see your screen is still visible, but someone is presenting. That's what I could see. See these disturbances.
Sir, just 1 minute, sir. Sorry to disturb.
Yeah.
An appeal from the organizers to all the participants: kindly mute your mic and please do not make any presentation from your side.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. So whether all of you could see the screen? Yeah, good. So invitation to R. Let's start. Okay. So when do we so what is the so interesting thing about a set of real numbers? See, analysis. Where do analysis start? All this we'll discuss today. In fact, I have some sort of those even who have already heard about or learnt about this should enjoy the concepts. In fact, that's what the idea of today's presentation is. Okay, let me say invitation to R. So what we know about set of real numbers? Let's quickly do that. In fact, what all we know is very concrete thing. What we know is natural numbers. So what are natural numbers? Numbers starting from 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. Natural numbers. Then what we know about is set of integers. Then what else we have? Apart from set of integers, we have set of rational numbers. Till this is what These are all what we use very practically. Natural numbers, of course, is there. So integers, you have negative natural numbers also, and including 0. Rational numbers are natural fractions, 1 by 2, 2 by 3, and all you have. Okay, so then starts with R. What is R? In fact, whatever we have till Q, we keep it in mind and then extend it to R. That is what is usually called as top-down approach. Top-down approach. So what do we do in this? We inculcate the same addition and multiplication, whatever is defined in Q. Okay, so we know how to add to rational numbers. So what is a rational number? See, in fact, the definition of a rational number itself is set of all elements of the form P by Q, right? Where P is an integer, and usually Q is also an integer with Q not equal to 0, but I will now put like this: Q natural number. So in fact, one should think about this. Okay, is Q like this? One should think about, but the answer is very easy. In fact, if I have 2 by minus 3, then I know how to change it, okay, and bring it to bring it in this form, P by Q form. Okay, this much we know, and I know how to add two rational numbers. So suppose if you give me two rational numbers, P1 by Q1, P2 by Q2, I know how to add. Okay, take common denominator and add. That's how addition is defined. That's and also we know how multiplication is defined. And if we add two real rational numbers, then again we are going to get a rational number. Okay, P1 by Q1 plus P2 by Q2, what it is. In fact, all of you should imagine, I'm not going to write much. So what it is, take the common denominator Q1, Q2, and it is going to be Q2 P1 plus Q1 P2 in the numerator. Numerator, is it an integer? Yes, all of them are integers, therefore numerator is an integer. Whether denominator is non-zero, that is also right. That's a non-zero integer, therefore it is a natural number. So Q is a addition of two rational numbers is again a rational number. Multiplication of two rational numbers is again. So therefore what people usually calls is this Q under addition and multiplication. It satisfies, okay, various properties, and that is usually called as Q is a field. Q plus dot is a field. That's what we say. Right, let's go for right. Now what we do in R, we want to just imitate. In fact, that's what is people call abstract. I want to take addition. This addition is again a function from R cross R to R, and multiplication is again a function from R cross R to R. Okay, and what we have is a function from R cross R to R, and therefore what we have. So therefore, and we want to say R plus dot has various properties. Therefore, it's a field. That's what we want to say. R plus dot is a field. In fact, this is what top-down approach, and it is assumed actually. Okay, this is purely algebraic. So what are all the properties? Associative, commutative, 0 is the identity, and then goes, okay, commutativity, and then for multiplication also you define carefully associative, inverse, additive. Okay, you list all the properties, okay, one by one. See, what we have is associative, 2, what we have is identity, then third one, what we have is inverse, fourth one, what we have is commutativity. Okay, inverse should be, you should have it carefully for multiplication. Okay, okay. Then distributive, combine these two, distributive. This is purely algebraic property of R. I'm not going to do this. My thing is a bit interesting. We'll go for what analysis means. Then comes order property. Suppose if I have two real numbers x and y, okay, and if I have an order, say less than or greater than, keep one at a time. Okay, from one you can deal with the other. So let's have less symbol, something. Okay, let's have a less symbol. Okay, I have an order less. So what is an order? Yeah, so it's a subset of R cross R. That's the only thing about order. So less than. So what does this less than property say? Okay, suppose if x less than y and z is a real number, then x plus z is less than y plus z. And z is positive, then xz is less than y. Either multiplying by right or multiplying by left, it doesn't matter. Okay, so it's compatible with addition. Then you should have transitivity, what is called as transitive. So what is transitive? If x less than y and y less than z, then what you have? Then x is less than z. Okay, I'm sorry, I have written greater than here. So y less than z, then it should have x less than z. This is transitive property. Okay. Now, what is the third thing we are going to have? That's very, very important. What is called as law of trichotomy. So what is law of trichotomy? Trichotomy. So what does that say? Given three real numbers, x, y, z in R. Okay, in fact, I don't require 3, so we'll have only 2. Given any two real numbers, what does law of trichotomy say? Exactly one of the following holds. Exactly one of the following holds. What is it? 1. Either x is less than y, 2, or y is less than x. Third one, x equal to 1. So exactly one of them holds means what? Among these three, one should definitely occur. If one occurs, the other will not occur. This R is actually exclusive R. So if one of them, okay. So when you, just like what Aristotle said, when two people are there, then politics starts. So like that, when you give two real numbers, you can compare. This is where analysis starts. Okay. In fact, suppose if we want to, even if we want to say two persons are equal, x equal to y, in mathematics what we do is, we will say this happens if and only if x less than or equal to y and y is less than or equal to x. Okay, here I have to explain the symbol. This is a symbol, x less than or equal to y. So what do you mean by saying x less than or equal to y? Yeah, the meaning for this is x less than y. See, this also, if and only if x less than y or x equal to y. See, usually we ask this. See whether 2 is less than or equal to 3. See, I have asked it to so many people so far. In fact, I have sometimes very surprised answer. People, most of the half of the students initially will say no for this, because they will say 2 is strictly less than 3 sir. Why are you saying 2 less than or equal to 3? So now the thing is, the idea is you have to understand this. X less than or equal to y means what? X less than y, or if one of the, I'll just say carefully. Maybe we'll go to the next page and say. See, what is the meaning of x less than or equal to y? Means x less than y or x equal to y. If one of them, this statement you should understand. If one of them is true, the statement will be true. Is the point clear? So this is what we call it as inclusive. If one of them is true, then this is about R. If one of them is true, then it has to be true. So 2 less than 3 is true. Therefore, what we should have, 2 less than or equal to 3 is true. This is logic. Okay. This is the point. I hope all of you should understand this point. So again, the same question, whether 5 is less than or equal to 5? Yes. Okay, let's go for now. In fact, I will give you as an exercise. We will not do that. We will do something else. See, if x less than or equal to y and y less than or equal to x, then we have to show x equal to y. If we have these two things, so what do I mean by this? I will expand this and write x less than y or x equal to y, and I have this. So it's a little complicated thing, okay? If you expand and see, but you can easily answer, okay? Or x, yeah, y less than x, I should say y equal to, we will write in that same manner, or y equal to x, then you say x equal to y. Okay, then we have to say x equal to y. And it's a logical point, so I leave it here to do. Okay, start. If we want to prove in mathematics, again we go by what is called as contrapositive. If x not equal to y, then what happens you see. Okay, by logic, if x less than, see we have this statement true. What is true? X less than y or x equal to y is given to be true, is true, and x not equal to y we are having. So we start the proof like this. Suppose x not equal to y. In fact, I should not write this. You should think and get it. If x not equal to y. See, again there is somebody presenting. That's what I hear. Please, I ask all of you to do not share something. In fact, I am presenting here. Please, I ask others not to interrupt the presenting. Okay. Whether all of you can see my presentation? I hope. Yeah, you can raise your hand if you see my presentation. Yeah, good. Okay, fine. That's right. So usually, we, in fact, in a regular class, I will ask with the participants to answer this question. So here, you can see here, you are just seeing the picture. So you got to go for a thought. So I leave it to you as an exercise. Okay, to complete this. So how do I prove this? We will come back to what I am doing here. So I assume this statement. So suppose x not equal to y, that's how I start. Then I have x less than y or x equal to y is true and x not equal to y. Therefore, what should happen? I think I have gone out of, where is my things on it? Yeah. Yes. Right. So therefore, the conclusion is I have x less than y. Right? Again, there also it will be y less than x, but it contradicts law of trichotomy, because in law of trichotomy, what we said, we should have only one of them to be true. Now what we have is both of them true, x less than y and y less than x to be true. So therefore this contradicts. So this is the thing. So if we want to prove two real numbers are equal, two real numbers, x, y in R, and if we want to prove x equal to y, then we prove two statements. What is it? X less than or equal to y and y less than. That's what it says, law of trichotomy says. If you prove these two, then we have x equal to y, and that will also not happen in analysis. One of them may be trivial, the other way it will not come at all. Y less than or equal to x, not come at all. Then how do we prove? In fact, we do something very, what to say? What we will prove, if we want to say two real numbers are equal, what we will prove is, we will prove something stronger. We will prove modulus of x minus y to be equal to 0. Okay. That also, how do we prove? We prove modulus of x minus y is both less than 0 and less than or equal to 0 and greater than or equal to 0. So there also what will happen is one of them will be non-trivial. Okay. So we will prove this. Suppose we prove modulus of x minus y equal to 0, that will imply x equal to 0. Because x minus y will be equal to 0. That is how modulus is defined. So you will have x equal to 1. So here also what will happen is you will not be able to prove x minus modulus of x. So what we will do is we will use what is called as Archimedean property. What we will do? We will use Archimedean property. Okay. So Archimedean property is not this. So I will just say what we will do. Suppose if we have a part, if a is greater than or equal to 0, and for every natural number n in n, okay, just imagine the picture. Okay, the proof is simple. Suppose if I have, okay, somewhere a around here, and if I say a is less than or equal to, doesn't matter, 1 by n. For every n in n, a is less than 1 by n. Okay, then the conclusion is a equal to 0. This is a consequence of Archimedean property. What is Archimedean property? Archimedean property is set of natural numbers is not bounded upon. N is not bounded upon. There are various avatars of this. Okay, this is one. The second one is this. Usually people would have seen, given any real number, any positive real number, and given any real number y, there is a natural number n. Okay, there is a natural number n such that nx is greater than y. So what is the picture of this? Suppose if I have a positive x and y to be very far, okay, then what will I have? So what is nx? So you should draw the same length, 2x, 3x and all. What we will have is this nx will be greater than y. Okay, it will exceed. This is third. Or another form of using this is, given any real number x, there is a natural number n such that n will exceed this x. N is greater than x. Something, okay, something like this. So this is a positive thing, and you give me a very big number x, say, then I can exceed this always. There will be a natural number n which exceeds this x. So all these three are same. They are all consequence of these three are same alters of what is called as Archimedean principle. N is not bounded above. Okay, right. Yeah, we are going to use this. Okay, one form, right? Suppose if a, see what I am trying to, can I picture it? Suppose if a is positive here, can I have, see, a should be less than 1 by n for every n. That means a should be less than 1 by 2. I'll draw another picture and see. 1 by 3 will be here. A should be even less than this. And I can draw 1 by 4. So how do I prove? Now I have a contradiction. Suppose if A is positive, when will I contradict? So if the picture is like this, if some 1 by n exceeds A, then I will have a contradiction. Whether is that possible? Yes. To have this, what we want is A less than 1 by n or NA greater than 1. Right? In fact, A less than 1 by n. N is a positive number, therefore multiplying this will not negate the inequality, so NA has to be greater than 1. Is this possible? Yeah, you go back to our Archimedean property, so we will get this. Right? Any form you use, you can use any form. See, for example, if you use the second form, so what should be your x? Your x should be, and what should be your y should be 1. Again, it's saying I am no longer presenting. There is an interruption in my presenting. Screen is missing. See, that's a problem. Some of you are stopping my presentation. Do not do that. Are you able to see my screen? Yeah. So this is the interruption which I am having at present now. Are you able to see? Right. Now let's go a little bit further. So Archimedean property is very, very important, and that is a consequence of what is called as LUB axiom. So what is called as LUB? Oh, maybe I have to have a thick pen. Let's have a thick pen. Here is this. So is the screen visible? Yeah, right. LUB axiom. Yeah, that's okay. Thank you. Let's. So this is a consequence of what is LUB axiom. What is LUB axiom? If A is a non-empty subset of R and it is bounded above, then A has a LUB in R. So you should understand. What is the meaning of this? There exists a real number x in R such that x is LUB of A. So, in fact, what do we mean by LUB of A? What is LUB of A? Suppose if I say x is LUB of A, then what it should happen? For every A in A, it should be an upper bound, A less than or equal to x. And what is the second one? The second one is a natural thing, okay, least among all upper bounds. So given any upper bound, given an upper bound y in R, given upper bound of A. So maybe I'll write given an upper bound, call it as y of A. What is the comparison between y and x? That's what I should do. X should be less than or equal to y. Right? And usually people, okay, this second property will be replaced by second dash. This is the one which we will use quite often. Okay. It's other way of saying, logically both are same. So given any real number less than, suppose if I want, how do I replace the second condition? Given y in R, any real number which is strictly less than x. If y is strictly less than x, any real number less than that is not a, given y in R and y less than x, then y is not an upper bound of A. Bound of yeah. So I'm using the bottom of the page from my mind. Okay. So this is what we'll use. And this LUB is very, very important. This is used, LUB is a non-trivial one used to used in the entire course of real analysis. Everywhere you go, you will see the LUB property being used. Take any non-trivial property of R. For example, in R, even the uncountability, then what else? Nested interval property, uncountability. This is nested interval property. Yeah. And of course, later those who are in MSc knows about connectedness of R. Connectedness. Okay. In fact, whatever non-trivial theorem you have about R, okay, will have LUB or LUB as an important. All those things are consequence of LUB property. Okay, these two are what to say. You can find these two things in real analysis everywhere. So let's try to do one non-trivial property. Let's try to say, suppose if I have, okay, then we'll discuss. Suppose let's take, okay, we'll take a sequence AN. Okay, all of you know about convergence, right? So let's assume, let's have a sequence AN in A. Okay, AN converges to A, and we say AN converges to B. So suppose if we have two limits, so then what do I say? The limit should be unique. Okay, then A equal to B. See, all convergence and all I am assuming. So here I don't use LUB axiom and all, but now I am going to point out some important property. Okay. Okay, what is called as, what we will call it as Curry-Leaf trick. Curry-Leaf trick. And whatever I said before. Okay. Leaves. Curry-Leaf. What is Curry-Leaf? Kargapala. Whatever we use. See, this is named by the book which I am going to say, right? Professor S. Kumaresan. Okay. I'll give the list of books by end. Okay. This is named by Professor Kumaresan, and the name of this is Curry-Leaf. Comes as a it adds flavor to our food, and usually people throw it out, right? Or catalyst in an experiment. Okay. This sort of Curry-Leaf trick I am going to demonstrate by two examples today. Yeah? Yeah, A equal to B. That's what I want to say, right? So let's see how we inculcate Curry-Leaf trick. In fact, Curry-Leaf trick comes first in triangle inequality. See, what is triangle inequality? Modulus of A minus B. Let's take modulus in R. Modulus of A minus B is less than or equal to modulus of A minus C, correct? Plus modulus of C. In fact, that's what we always use this sort of thing, right? I'll just say carefully. In fact, triangle inequality, how do we use? That's how we use. But first, what is triangle inequality? Using modulus. See, that we use always, right? Modulus of x plus y less than or equal to mod x plus mod y. This is what is triangle inequality. But how do we use quite often? Suppose if we want to prove A equal to B, that's what we are going to do. We will say modulus of A minus B. Okay. Modulus of A minus B is less than 1 by n for every n. Then it will be modulus of A minus B will be 0. Okay, but I am going to have a smart choice. Okay, I am going to, this is actually I should not write less than or equal to, I'll just say equal to. How do I use Curry-Leaf? That's the trick here. So I'll just insert a C in between, minus C plus C. This is true for every C. Okay, now use triangle inequality. If I use triangle inequality, I'll get modulus of A minus C plus modulus of C minus B. This is true for any C in R. Then this is by triangle inequality. Triangle inequality. Yeah. So if we give the correct choice of C, see the C is any arbitrary real number. If we choose an intelligent C, that's what I'm trying to say. Very, very, very thoughtful C we have to use. Any C I can use. If we use a very powerful, thoughtful C to the situation, required situation, you are no longer presenting. That's a problem. Somebody is sharing the screen. Yeah. So is it visible now? Is the screen missing? Yeah, now is it visible? Yeah. Have you understood what is Curry-Leaf trick? It's very tough. You see, it's not tough. Initially, if you see, you will have some sort of hiccups. The idea is very simple. Try to understand. So, what is the Curry-Leaf trick? We are going to demonstrate. Here, what is Curry-Leaf? The Curry-Leaf is C. Okay. I am going to insert a C. Okay, to say all this. Okay. Right. So let's try, you will understand what sort of C I am going to take. So AN converges to A. So my trick is, now here I want to prove A equal to B. So my claim is going to be, I will prove a modulus of A minus B is less than 1 by N. For every N I am going to do this. So let's take an N. Let N belong to N. Okay. So how do I do this? Let's take modulus of A minus B. Okay. Now we will insert with a proper, what all I know is AN converges to both A and B. So I will put this. So let's use some other notation. Let's use capital N. Okay. So like N or K or something. Let N belong to N. So I will put this capital N and add. This is true, right? Now I apply triangle inequality. Right? Okay. Now carefully use AN converges to A to get this to be less than whatever you want. Okay. Let's say we want totally less than 1 by N. So we will say this less than 1 by 2N, this less than 1 by 2N. We want, so far we have not achieved, we want this. So 1 by 2N plus 1 by 2N will be, yeah, 1 by, or it is exactly equal to, okay. So therefore, modulus of A minus B will be less than 1 by. So how do we achieve this? Now use the fact AN converges to. Is that clear? Since AN converges to A, so I want to, so what is the meaning of this? AN converges to A, all of you know, right? By very good choice of epsilon. Maybe I will write for epsilon positive. Given any epsilon, there is a stage. Let's call that stage as K. There is a K in N such that for all N greater than or equal to K, what we have is modulus of AN minus A is less than whatever quantity we want. Okay. Suppose we want that to be less than 1 by capital N, we will have it by 1 by capital N. Okay. That's what we have to use. So go back and use. You have to use the proper notation. Yeah. So if you go, I want to make. So what should be the choice of capital N? Okay. Here also I have used. Let's here use some. Yeah. That doesn't matter. Use that K. So what is the K you want to choose? You want to choose it to be greater than or equal to this stage K. You call it as K naught or something. Okay. Therefore, you keep this epsilon to be, yeah, this has to be less than epsilon. I have written directly, write it less than. So your choice of epsilon is going to be 1 by 2N. For that you will have a K, then choose that N or even that K. Okay, there is a K. There is a K such that for all N greater than or equal to that K, modulus of A minus A is going to be less than this epsilon, right? Epsilon is 1 by 2N. Note this is greater than, this is comma. Is that understood? In particular, modulus of AK minus A is going to be less than 1 by 2N. Yeah, you have a K here. So there is a K. Call this maybe as K1. So you have a K1. There exists K1 in N such that for all N greater than or equal to K1, modulus of AK1 minus A is less than 1 by 2N. Similarly, use B, AN converges to B also. Therefore, you will get a K2 in N such that modulus of AK2 minus B will be less than 1 by 2N. Now you want to have a common stage. So choose any K greater than or equal to both K1 and K2. One such choice is maximum. Of course, you can choose K1 plus K2 and all, so many things. One choice is maximum of K1 comma K2. So then what you will have? Modulus of whatever you want. A minus B is going to be less than or equal to that K, modulus of A minus AK plus AK minus B. So this we have set less than 1 by 2n. This we have set less than 1 by 2n, and that is equal to 1 by n. So what we have proved, for every n in n, modulus of A minus B is less than 1 by n. Therefore, A equal to B. Okay, this K is our Curry-Lee. Second proof of Curry-Lee, I will go and demonstrate. This is a little tougher proof, but still we will do. Cauchy sequence. Okay, R is Cauchy complete. R is Cauchy complete. Completeness of R. Okay, in functional analysis, people call this as Banach space. So R is a Banach space. So what is the meaning of that? Every Cauchy sequence converge. So let's demonstrate Curry-Lee trick using. There is a very good Curry-Lee trick involved in this. Usually people prove via Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem. Okay, sequence and all. Now I am going to give a direct proof using LUP property. Let's do that. Let's take a sequence. Let Xn be a Cauchy sequence. Okay, what is that we have to prove? We have to prove the following. There is a X in R. There is a limit. Okay, we have to find that X such that Xn converges to X. No, sorry. Xn converges to X. So this is to prove. Okay. Only Cauchy sequence is given to us. And how do we prove? This is a non-trivial result in R. So therefore we have to use what is called as LUP property. Okay. Okay. So we work backwards. First I will give the idea. So I want to use LUP property. That means LUP of some set I have to use. I have to find a X. Okay. If X is here, Xn converges to X I want. Therefore what should happen? Given any epsilon and draw X minus epsilon comma X plus epsilon. What should happen? After a stage, all the Xn's should lie here. Yeah. Xk. K greater than or equal to some n. All of them should be caught in between. I am going to use this idea. I want LUP. So I am going to see only on the left part. Okay. So what do I do? And also I am not supposed to use epsilon and all. So what do I do? Yeah. So that's a very non-trivial part. Okay. In fact, a little thought you have to put. I am going to keep collect all the terms here and take the LUP. Collect all. Maybe I will draw another picture. Yeah, X is there here. Collect all the terms to the left of X. X is still not known, but that X is going to be maximum. Therefore, collect all the terms here. Okay, collect all sequence terms, Xn's. Okay, which are to the left. So how do I do that? With some property. What is the property? That should happen. So choose a Y in R. I'm going to collect all the terms to the left. So what is the property I'm going to have? There is a stage, capital N in N. After that stage, all the terms for all N in N, Xn's has to be greater than or equal to 1 or greater than 1. Doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm going to collect all real numbers which are greater than or equal to 1. After a stage, all the terms should be here. You have to put a thought why I have written this set yes, how I have constructed and all. You should start doing LUP, then you understand. Okay. Now having constructed this set yes, we are going to say LUP exists, S is non-empty, S is bounded above, all these things we are going to say. I'm going to, yeah, that's what, that's how we have to do. So how do we do this? Why is this set AS is non-empty? See, these things we have to say. This is non-empty. Yeah. What is the second thing? Is this bounded above? If I have these two things, then suppose assume these two. Initially assume these two. Then what will happen? There exists X in R such that X is LUB of S. And what we want to do? We want to claim this Xn converges to X. Xn converges to X. So do we have that? That's how you have to analyze. Okay, X is the LUB of this set. Okay, and yeah. So we want to prove that also. So how do we prove? We start with so let epsilon be positive. And what is that we have to do? We have to find a stage. We have to find a capital N. Okay, such that modulus of Xn minus X is less than epsilon. This is what we have to do. In fact, I have a problem in writing. Okay, I will just adjust accordingly. So modulus of X. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So here is the place. So modulus of Xn minus X less than epsilon. How do you say this? You expand the modulus. So the thing is Xn minus X. This is going to be in between. So yeah, minus epsilon. Well, so is there a problem in my presentation? Do you see the screen? Still visible? Oh, it's visible. Yeah. Is it visible? So this is less than epsilon. Okay, this is what we want to do. And this is X minus epsilon less than Xn. Less than, or in other words, now we'll just slightly turn. We'll keep like this. Modulus of Xn minus epsilon less than X. Yeah, this should be less than Xn plus epsilon. So what should happen is this Xn minus epsilon should be less than X. Okay, I will do like we'll take epsilon by 2. Here also epsilon by 2, and we'll simply say this is less than or equal to. This is our strategy. So far I have not started the proof. I have not proved anything. I am just explaining the strategy to you. So Xn minus epsilon by 2 has to be. Suresh stops staring. Yeah. Somebody is presenting. I hope somebody is presenting. Is it right? I have this. See, I asked some Suresh is presenting. So please stop your presentation. This will take over Suresh as the main presenter. We pinned you. Okay. Share now. What is that? I have to present now. A window. Is the screen visible to you? You are presenting to everyone. Yeah, fine. So this is the strategy. So what we have to, in fact, I will go to the previous page and see. So this is what I want to do. Now look at my set S. Okay. So what all I want to say is xn minus epsilon by 2 less than x is the LUB. I just want to say xn minus epsilon by 2 belongs to the set, and xn plus epsilon by 2 is a upper bound of the set. Then I am through. See, that's the idea. And to say this, we have to use Curry-Lew trick carefully. I have just given you a hint. Go back and understand, and I wish all of you should do it by your own. Okay, try how the set is consulted. Without seeing any book, you should try to capture the idea and then do it. Okay, this can be done. So once you write, you take S to be this, start with any, now use the fact that xn is Cauchy. Okay, given sequence xn is Cauchy. Therefore what happens? Given any epsilon, there is a stage, right? You take that stage to be capital N. There exists n in n such that for all n greater than n comma m greater than or equal to capital N, modulus of xn minus xm is less than epsilon by 2. Okay. Therefore, what will happen? You choose this m to be your capital N. Therefore, modulus of xn minus capital Xn is less than epsilon by 2. That means what? Xn minus epsilon by 2 is less than xn. Less than or equal to xn plus epsilon by 2, that we don't want. So, xn minus epsilon by 2 is less than xn. What does that say? That's how we have written the set S. Okay, where is the set S? This is the set S. Xn greater than or equal to, that's how I have written, no? Yeah. When I have less than, I have less than or equal to. This is greater than. Therefore, that says xn minus epsilon by 2 belongs to S. Okay. Therefore, xn minus epsilon by 2 is the upper bound of the set. Xn minus epsilon by 2 belongs to the set. X is the least upper bound. Therefore, xn minus epsilon by 2 is going to be less than or equal to x. This is a member of S, and x is the least upper bound. That means it's an upper bound. Therefore, xn minus epsilon by 2 is going to be less than or equal to x. Now, what we want to show is xn plus epsilon by 2 is a upper bound of the set. Is upper bound of S. That you can try. Okay, you have to try. So here you have got the idea. So what is the Curry-Lew here in the proof? This n. This capital N is the Curry-Lew. This is how I achieve. Finally, just a recap. So what we have done is I'll just say. So a typical textbook proof will be like this. Let xn be a Cauchy sequence. Construct the set S. Nobody knows how the set came. All these are all through proper analysis. So write down S is collect all Y in R such that there exists some stage n in n such that for all n greater than or equal to n, xn greater than or equal to y or greater than y, doesn't matter. So they will prove claim 1. This I have not done, you have to do. Again by Cauchy it will come. S is, in fact, epsilon equal to 1 you can take and do. S is non-empty, not empty, okay. Because I'll just say xn, use Cauchy and get, okay. Use Cauchy and get xn minus 1 belongs to the set, yes, okay. Cauchy 1, 2, or you can use even epsilon. For any epsilon, xn minus epsilon belongs to the set and all, you can use 2. S is bounded above. Again take a epsilon equal to 1 and say xn plus epsilon belongs to xn plus 1 belongs to S by Cauchy. Okay, not this n, some k it will be. You have to use Cauchy. See this carefully, it is independent of any epsilon. Okay, understand this carefully. Then S is non-empty, S is bounded above. Therefore, there exists x in R such that x equal to LUB of S. Then what one has to say? Xn converges to S. Claim. Here comes the Curry trick. For this, what is our claim? To prove this, our claim is given epsilon positive. Okay. There exists n in n. Okay. Such that modulus of xn minus x is less than or equal to epsilon by 2. Therefore, for all. So, how do we prove this? This is what is using Curry. That I said. So, try to prove modulus of xn minus x. Okay. Then, okay. This I have done. So, now how do I prove? Start with an epsilon. I have a n in n. So, now modulus of xn minus x, what you do? That you start with this xn minus capital Xn plus xn minus x. Okay. This is less than or equal to. This is the place where you use Curry trick. Xn minus xn plus modulus of xn minus x. By Cauchy, I can show this less than epsilon by 2. By the previous claim, I can show this less than epsilon by 2. Therefore, this is less than epsilon. This is where I have used Curry. This particular n, I have used the Curry. How does this Curry? This is by Cauchy. Given sequence is Cauchy. So, there is a capital N. This also can be made, I have shown. Now, I can take a common n. Therefore, this is less than epsilon. So, the proof of Cauchy completeness of R involves very careful Curry leaf handling, and you can see in analysis most of the places you can see you have Curry leaf handling. Another, in fact, I have to, because of time, I have to stop here. There are a lot of one such thing will be this set of all, or in functional analysis, what one calls is set of all bounded functions, f from x to r. Initial set of all bounded functions, f from x to r with the sup. Exactly same proof. Or in other words, in analysis, what people call is if Fn converges to, okay, sorry, if Fn, maybe we can say simply, if Fn is uniformly Cauchy, Fn from x to r is uniformly Cauchy and pointwise bounded. Okay. What is that? Fn is uniformly Cauchy, then it's uniformly convergent. It's uniformly convergent. Same thing, both are same. And here also we use Curry trick very, very carefully. Okay. Because of time limit, I am stopping this, and also because I couldn't see the audience and ask. I hope most of you would have understood, but I feel one has to do it by their own to appreciate it. Yeah. So thank you very much for listening my session. I hope all of you have got the point what I was trying to tell. Yeah. Thank you. Let's stop share. Turn off microphone. Oh, that way. Something stop presenting. சரி சரியா வரலப்பா ரைட்டிங்கும் இதுவும் ஆஃப் பண்ணலன்னு நினைக்கிறேன்.
பண்ணலாமா பண்ணணும்னு நினைச்சேன் ஒன்ன பண்றதுக்கே.
Hello. This is Dr. Prasanna again. So I think Dr. Srinivasan has finished his lecture. So I should thank Dr. Srinivasan on my behalf and on behalf of Beck and the organizing team for having taken his time out and being the resource person for today's webinar. And I also thank all the participants who have attended very eagerly and have participated. And I have been seeing that everyone has been sending messages and communicating with each other. And I thank everyone on my behalf and on behalf of Bharatdasan University. And I think the next seminar with the Maths Department, webinar with Maths Department is on Thursday. So we'll be sending that notification shortly, maybe today evening probably. And others are also will be giving. That is Professor Pramanandam, Professor Tamil Chelvan, others are also coming. So we'll continue to do this work. So once again, I thank the resource person, Dr. Srinivasan, and all the participants for the successful conduct of this webinar. Thank you. Thank you one and all.
Thank you, Prasanna. சரியா வரலையோ?